Guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video I'm going to be giving my reaction to Jaron Ennis winning via stoppage in round 6 versus Eimantas Stanionis. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So we're going to be going for a few fights in this card. We're going to be starting at the main event though. Jaron Ennis, like I say, stopping Stanionis in round 6 and doing it in impressive fashion. Obviously, before this, he was coming off fights against opponents and realistically he didn't really want to be facing. That being Chukadzian for the second time and David Avanesian. In them fights, he didn't look amazing. He was getting caught quite often. Like I say, he still looked like a very high class fighter, but he was getting caught a lot, and that made me and seemingly quite a few others kind of have doubts for him coming into this fight. Stanionis, yes, hadn't realistically been tested to the amount in which Ennis had been tested, which, to be fair, hasn't been a crazy amount so far in his career, but he'd been, still with much better guys than what Stanionis had been in, but he was looking very good, very hungry. He was looking like one of them champions that was a very underrated champion, a champion in which nobody wanted to fight because of a reason. There was something in which made him scary and something in which fighters wanted to avoid because they just saw it as a risk and not kind of worth the reward. But obviously, Jaron Ennis was having difficulties finding a matchup. I spoke about this in my prediction video. But obviously he managed to eventually find this unification with Stanionis, and I think it was a great fight to be made. It was definitely a fight in which makes sense, and now he's been able to unify the division as a result. And obviously I said that Stanionis would be able to win. I thought the defensive issues in which we'd seen from Jaron Ennis as of recent would have caused problems for him when he went into this fight. I thought that Stanionis would be able to land on him and land relatively consistently on him and be able to hurt him with the power in which he did have. But Jaron Ennis stuck behind his jab very well. Stanionis started loading up on his shots, just going for singular shots, and was struggling to get inside for the most part. And when he did, Jaron Ennis was moving. I liked his upper body movement. I still would have liked to see perhaps a bit more head movements and in general just keeping his hands a little bit higher at times. I feel like that is still something in which when he goes into fights, maybe like a Virgil Ortiz, or when he goes into fight somebody of possibly the highest of levels, somebody who you can compare to him, who can be compared to him and can be seen as a 50-50 type of fight, I feel like he may have problems defensively. And obviously every fighter has to have them difficult physical contests where they get caught a lot for the most part to be able to make them better and to improve. Jaron Ennis, I feel like, was very comfortable, which was nice to see. I think he definitely had the best of him kind of bought out by Stanionis, and he was definitely performing at his best. I loved how he was going to the body. That's where he got his best work. That's where he was able to wear down Stanionis, and Stanionis clearly didn't like that. You could tell he'd never really been hit by somebody as powerful as Ennis to the body. And Ennis did look really, like I say, he looked like he was in a bit of a flow state at times. Round 5 he was getting caught a few times, but when he turned up into round 6, he seemingly, that's what a great fighter does. They get possibly caught with 1 or 2 shots, maybe being a bit lazy in the round before, and then they turn it up, they go up a gear, and then they are able to stop the fighter within the next round, showing that they can go up a gear whenever they want. Like I say, that was a mature, excellent performance, a unification-worthy performance by Jaron Ennis. Now he moves on. Eddie Hearn was clearly ecstatic when Ennis won, which is always great to see. And a promoter like Eddie Hearn is a great promoter to have on your side because of you can see how much passion he brings to each and every one of his fighters. He's going to be selling them better than probably anybody else will be, and so you can see that passion. He seemingly has said that he wants to be putting Ennis against Brian Norman Jr. next. I think that is a great fight. Of course, we as fans would love to see a Virgil Ortiz fight. I feel like maybe we could see His Excellency getting involved with Jaron Ennis soon, hopefully, because I feel like that's the best possible way to be able to see the best possible matchups for Ennis. But for now, we've got a great performance by him there, winning via stoppage, and we'll carry on speaking through the card. The card as a whole, I actually thought really did deliver. There was some really good stoppages and some good knockouts from all the kind of prospects, and it's kind of what you want to see. I mean, of course, the one kind of big major, I suppose, non-stoppage unanimous decision win was Raymond Ford winning via unanimous decision versus Thomas Mattice to remain WBA Continental North American Super Featherweight Champion. That was a good performance from him. I don't think he looked as destructive. Obviously, he didn't win by a stoppage in his first fight in the super featherweight division, but he looked destructive. He looked like he had good level of power. In this fight, maybe he looked a bit weaker and wasn't able to cause too many issues to Matisse kind of strength wise, but he was still continuously kind of hitting him with the overhands and was having success. His speed looked good. He kind of just went to the shoe shine kind of combinations and they looked nice, they looked impressive, and he was having success with them. Matisse was covering up by the end of the fight and not really wanting to throw too much, which is always a sign of a beat down type of performance. And inevitably it was a good performance. It was a fight in which he easily could have overlooked and it could have been a bad performance, but it was still, like I say, a good decent performance. Nothing too crazy, nothing to really get fans excited for a world title fight for him, but like I say, a good performance. And there's talks of him fighting Sugar Nunes. Nunes, of course, has been given the opportunity to fight for the vacant IBF world title, so we have to wait and see if he's able to win that fight out in Japan. If not, of course, a Shaki Foster is a fight in which they want for Ford. I just doubt that we'll see that fight next. I just have a feeling that Top Rank won't be wanting to do that for him. So, I'm not necessarily sure. Maybe we might have to see a Ford in another type of fight like this where it's a fringe kind of world level type of opponent. Maybe a step up from Matisse would be nice, but we'll have to wait and see where he moves on. A few other fights in which I quickly want to touch upon just as, nice performances. Giyasov, KO round 4 versus Ocampo. It was a good performance. Maybe he could have got him out there a little bit earlier, but inevitably still a knockout performance, and it was solid. I think there's a few things in his game which maybe might stop him from getting to the top, but for at least that performance, it was excellent to see that he looked better than what he had done in his previous fights. Obviously, he's gone through so much with everything with his daughter, and it's really, it was really nice to see that he dedicated the fight to her, and you could tell the emotion was in it for him, and you can tell he really had a lot to let out in this fight. And so maybe now he might be just continually improving with each and every single fight. We'll have to wait and see, but it's another knockout performance, and I would love to see a step up fight for him as he's highly ranked in the bodies. But then also, some, like I say, prospects coming through. Tahmir Smalls, KO round 1 versus Bascome. That was a good performance against a solid, on paper, guy who didn't really do anything, but Tahmir Smalls, he's a big guy and he looks like he can cause some problems. Omari Jones, KO in round 1 versus Jackson. Again, another good performance, a few good feints, easy opponent realistically, but still inevitably a good solid knockout. Not really the biggest of talkers, but does have a good level of potential, so maybe that will come with time, him being able to sell himself more, because Olympic champions and Olympic fighters always have to be able to sell themselves well, because if they do get to the top, they can be stars, as we've seen on multiple occasions with Olympic fighters, but we just maybe have to see a little bit more in that aspect. But like I said, that'll probably come with time. And Zaquin Moses, KO in round 2 versus Pallette. Not a crazily kind of good KO. I mean, the opponent looked not the best and he seemed to struggle to get inside in the first round, but he did eventually, go and stop him. And so you can't really ask for too much when he's only 19 years of age. And the cousin of Shakur Stevenson, good performance for him. And yeah, like I say, it was a good undercard with the prospects coming out and getting some knockout performances. And so yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like video if you did indeed like video, subscribe if you are new, and thanks for watching.